Molly. There she is. Everybody's in so far. Right back there. Nice. Can you message her? Yeah. Whatever she wants to say. Mary Pat, I sent you a chat. Do you see it? Like, look at the bottom.
I have not heard from Father Guy. Can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay. I haven't heard from Father Guy, so I'm not sure if he's going to be joining us or not. Thank you so much for putting this together and meeting with us tonight. I think if I were you, I'd just go ahead and get started.
Okay. My only concern is if I'm sharing my screen in presentation mode, I'm wondering if I can still admit people. Oh, there's Father Guy.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
I think we'll give it one more minute.
Okay.
Welcome, Father.
People can't see you. I don't want to be seen. Good.
Here he is.
I had to finish. I was hearing confessions after Mass. I had to lock up the church.
Oh, no problem.
Okay. What Father Guy, would you like to start with a little prayer?
Yep, Father. But before you start, just really quickly, I'm going to go ahead and mute everyone. And we will share our screen and start presenting what we have. And just throughout the presentation, obviously we have all of the questions included in our slides that were submitted early. But if you have, I'll go ahead and mute everyone.
They need just like a background.
There we go. If you have questions throughout or you need clarifications, if you would just please type those in the chat box to everyone. And then at the end of our presentation, we will come back through and revisit the chat. So if you don't know how to use the chat, you can use your mouse and scroll down to the bottom of your screen and you'll see the different icons down there that allow you to do that. And also people's individual boxes have 3 little dots at the top right-hand corner. So if you need to message somebody in the group about something relevant, which seems to happen a lot in our meetings because everything doesn't involve everybody, you can do that individually as well. Okay, Father, so if you want to come off of mute, you're on.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Today is the feast day of St. Augustine of Canterbury. He was really the first missionary to found churches in England. There were already some Christians there, mostly monastic, but they also were heretics. They were following the teachings of Pelagius. So St. Augustine of Canterbury had a lot of work to do, and one of the first things he did as he was establishing parishes and dioceses was also to establish schools. So he knew that Catholic schools would be very important to teach the true teachings of our Catholic faith. So let's ask his intercession upon our meeting this evening. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord Jesus, as you inspired St. Augustine of Canterbury to teach the truth in England, to found churches and also schools, so you have called us in this day and age at St. Joan of Arc to continue to teach the truths of Jesus Christ and to transform our children into saints who are worthy of your heavenly kingdom. Be with us now, send us your Holy Spirit to guide us, and help us always to know the way you have chosen for us to go for our parish and our school, and to have the courage and the grace to go in that way. We commit ourselves in this meeting into your hands and praying in your name. Amen.
Amen.
And the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Father.
Mary Pat, do you have opening comments that you'd like to make?
I really don't. I just, again, thank you for presenting this to all of us in a way that, we're able to participate. We appreciate it. So go for it.
Well, certainly it's not like being in person,
No.
but we tried to do the best we could, and here we go.
So we're going to share our screen, and you're going to see the presentation that we have, but we'll be talking at the beginning of our presentation. We're going to kind of go through it. Lately, the Department of Education and the Archdiocese, as we've been attending Zoom meetings, we find it easier to hear everything we're supposed to hear and then stop and do questions towards the end. So maybe listen through the whole thing, because some things you wanted to know might get answered. And then if they're not answered, don't hesitate to send a chat. And those of you who sent something in advance, we included it in the presentation as of about 3 hours ago when we were finishing up our slides for tonight. So first, we want to welcome you all on this beautiful evening here in Indiana. We want, if you hear much at my house, which is where we're located, we have a new puppy and everyone is on full-time puppy duty. It's good to see. We can let people in the waiting room when they get here. And so her name is Lila, and we've never done it, but I decided turning 50 this summer certainly means that I should do my bucket list. And so we have a little golden retriever, and hopefully all your kids will get to know her soon. We also want to extend a special thank you and appreciation to our staff members who are here tonight. We have lots of names in the column, and we see some of them double as parents, but many of them do not double as parents, and they're the teachers at the school. And to see all of their interests in what we're doing tonight and have their support means a great deal to us, as well as it does from parents who are not staff members. So we made it. We're really happy that we have parent teachers now and actual teachers who have done the work of the whole school for the last couple months. We know we would not be as successful without your support for your children's education. This is just a list of our school commission members. We are indebted to the way under Mary Pat's leadership they've come together over the past couple years to really get an actual working strategic plan and to really support the actual work that's going on in the school. There's like a direct correlation to things that happen on school commission and how they were reflected in the school and vice versa. So that's very exciting. There probably goes my family for dinner because I'm not making it. This is just the way the committee's broken up into the different major benchmarks for our accreditation. There, you can refer to, we can share these slides when we're finished.
Our accreditation is actually this coming November, and so we will have a team from the Archdiocese visiting with our staff and administration that day.
We'll be looking for input from many of you, so if you're interested in being a part of that, don't hesitate. Please, we invite you to let us know that you would like to be involved in some of that work ahead of that meeting in November. Tonight, we have two objectives, major, but lots of slides to support them. One, we just want to share our highlights and wins of 19 and 20. Sometimes we get so busy with the things we need to do and why can't this be better and how do we need to grow and improve that we really stop and forget to look at really this list of extensive great things going on. And as a school, we should celebrate those things. We want to do that tonight and also talk to you a lot about what next school year will look like.
No, my advanced button's not working. 1 second. There we go.
So our annual fund, as you can remember in 1819, Father Guy kicked off a big 3-year leading up to our centennial celebration, $100,000 a year objective. We knew that was setting the bar really, really, really high. And obviously we had no way to project or to determine what would happen, given the last few months. And so we're very grateful to have raised $37,000. And that is something that we need to talk about in our more long-term plans, that fundraising piece. We had a question submitted we're going to answer later about that. We need to have a really concentrated effort about how we go about raising our money here, because tuition and money alone do not meet the school's needs. And so, and the contribution from the parish, as generous as it really is, altogether, in order to do the things we need and want to do, we're going to have to talk about fundraising. Our deficit is calculated at $60,000. For those of you who have been around for a while, we encountered a very large deficit in some previous years in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it became the school's our administrative responsibility 2 springs ago to get that set straight. Last year we went only $8,000 over our budget, and we were able to afford that back to the parish through our annual fundraising. This year, it's calculated to be at $60,000. Molly Ellsworth let me know that today, but we're not nervous about it because we don't have our Homeland Security money back yet for things that we've already spent that are included in part of that money. And because we also fundraised last year for a new student management system and a new power school, and a new Go Math program school-wide, which is really needed to come out of what we fundraised. So we highly anticipated having to pay that out of our annual fund, so that number does not scare us, surprisingly.
I'm so sorry. My
Mouse is sticking.
my mouse is delayed. It's just not wanting to. Let me try this way. There we go.
So I'm gonna let Sarah jump in so I
Okay.
can take a break.
Yeah, so I'm not going to read all of these to you. I know you can read for yourselves, but these are just a few. We have a couple of slides worth of highlights and wins that we feel we did really, really great work on. Our Catholic identity, Catholic Newman standards and benchmarks, we kind of mapped in a 4-year plan, and this past year implemented those standards throughout English language arts. Next year, we are projected to weave them into social studies curriculum. And let's see, we have Airways, which is an iLearn test preparation platform. Many of you can probably see when we get to the data from the 2019 results of iLearn, because it was a brand new test, statewide assessment, there has been a huge learning curve for our students just in the types of questions and how to go about tackling those questions. So Airways has better helped us prepare, even though it got canceled this year.
And the teachers are amazed at the way when they saw the test the first year we administered it, and it almost makes you feel like, had I known to talk to the kids this way or prepare them this way, where was the guidance for that? Well, that's what Airways is.
Yeah.
I describe it to the teaching staff this way: we prepared our children for a soccer game, and we showed up to a football game with pads.
Yeah.
And it's not that the content, one would think, shouldn't, if they know something, shouldn't it just translate no matter how they're being assessed on it? And if one thought, yes, they should, one would be wrong, because there's information a child can be taught or even master in a certain way and be assessed in a different way, or have a higher expectation of a response given and then fail to meet the mark, when really if we had just coached them up on that, they would be successful. So that's a huge win.
Yep. We spent a lot of our PLC work with teachers, really working on curriculum alignment and studying the standards, a deep dive of understanding and identifying those power standards that will appear on the iLearn test, and some vertical articulation between grade levels. So we had all kinds of efforts in place that we're continuing into this next school year to improve instruction and ultimately to increase achievement. Our ARMOR program and social emotional learning initiatives, I feel like our ARMOR program was a huge win this year. We focused on positive supports and sort of changed our discipline philosophy a little bit to support social emotional learning practices. And as a result, we saw a decline in our discipline referrals overall. And then our marketing, we have huge gratitude owed to Sarah Mitchell. Sarah, if you're listening, she has totally given the St. Joan of Arc website a facelift. If you have not been on our website, please visit it. It is night and day from what it used to be.
It's really great.
And we talked about this last year at the State of School. We had a company called Rare Bird, pro bono, basically, donate their time and efforts and resources to help us produce 3 marketing videos that focus on faith, education, and our amazing community at St. Joan of Arc. So those are also on the website if you haven't seen them.
Yeah.
Okay, next slide. I'm going to try and zip through these. All of you, I'm sure, remember our Eli Lilly Day of Service. We have Robin Baker, who's our early learning program director, to thank for that ultimately.
Yeah, before she was.
Yeah.
She was Worth AYS at the time, which is our after school program. Secured a grant for us to have some 70 Eli Lilly IT professionals on their day of service come to Joan of Arc.
Yep.
It's pretty awesome.
Father Guy's production of the Spirituality of the Body videos, also on the website. If you have not seen those, fantastic. And there are so many of them. And our remote learning plan, we're counting this as a win. We worked really hard last year as a staff, like not this past year, but last year, 18-19, in launching our e-learning plan and getting it approved by the state. And we are so grateful that we did, because little did we know what was coming. So we want to thank all of our parents, especially. We know it's not been easy, but your feedback on the surveys has really helped us tremendously plan for, we hope not, but if we were to have to go back to a remote learning period of time, just to make adjustments and to streamline it so that it's just better. We just are always looking to improve. And the annual parent survey that we gave, special thanks there to Robbie Janik. He put all of his results together for us, as well as the survey, and just our overall parent satisfaction across a lot of different school topics really was increased. And we have a couple of those highlights to share now.
So some of the highlights and wins from this year, we picked a couple questions just to look at where did the parents, stakeholders say either agree or highly agree. So it was the 4 or the 5 on the choices. We added them together and compared from 1 year ago to this year. Everyone in the school community, including the administrators, faculty, staff, students, parents, and guardians, alums, and supporters, know and understand the school's mission. People this year fell at 77.1%. Like that was an accurate statement compared to 1 year ago, at 62.9%. We have it there at the bottom in case anyone's wondering what it is. We simplified it a little bit this year, but we didn't lose any meaning. Building God's kingdom through lives of leadership, integrity, and service. A second area that we noticed from our survey is that our school has a strong culture of collaboration at all levels within the school to advance excellence. Dr. Jill J. has to say, and I want to give Tools for Success a plug. I've sat at Archdiocesan meetings for now 3 years. In my first 2 years, different principals of different schools have stood up and they've supported this company, Tools for Success. And I've always been like, we can't afford that. We can't afford that. Well, I became very close with certain principals. And two of my colleagues at St. Luke and Immaculate Heart of Mary were using Tools for Success. And they said to me, you've got to figure out some way to use your title money and get Kathy Tooley and her team into your building. And so ironically enough, Sarah was working at Butler through her EPPSP program, where she met Dr. Jill J., one of her adjunct professors who works for Tools for Success. So it just kind of was all happening at about the same time, and we recognized Jill's experience in districts where they've turned failing or these schools around by certain practices. And I always believe there's a lot we can learn from our public school friends. Yep. There's a lot they should learn from us. That's not what they're in the business of. We are in the business of formation, and part of formation is what are they doing well that we need to know that we can carry into our school. So this question increased immensely this year, the answer. Yep. And the last one, our school administration involves the members of the school community to ensure a school culture that embodies the mission and vision increased as well this year. So we're thankful for that. I want to take a minute to say to you parents how much we appreciate you. I don't really want to go into much detail, but when I talk with my colleagues, especially since this has all been going on in the past 8 weeks, I can't even count on one finger the complaints. Maybe some advice, maybe some, hey, could we do it this way, or some suggestions. But the lack of criticism has made our lives better. The fact that you're so gracious and understanding and actually complimentary. When we talk to colleagues, they're like, "What? My gosh, how are you experiencing that?" Because I can't turn around and get a win to save my life. So we feel blessed. We know how lucky we are to be working with you and your families. Thank you. This is typically when we have lots of data to share with you, but this year we didn't test. And it's ironically, and I don't think it was Providence because they had no way to know, but we're in the period of hold harmless, which is our accountability, where our accountability academic grade comes from the Indiana Department of Education. And so this year, no matter how we were to perform, we were in hold harmless, and it was carrying over to 2021 already. So I don't think anybody knew that we were really not going to be testing or what testing is going to look like next year in any way, but that's where we stand with the state.
Which I gotta say, we were a little bit bummed out because we have done such hard work. Our teachers have with our students that, you know, we wanted to kind of see where we were and what kind of growth and progress we had made this year, but we'll see, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Enrollment at this point in time, and Sarah and I keep talking like school just ended. People are just maybe taking their first breaths, like beyond that school year. So maybe the decision making is not in the process, but we've really lost very few students. The majority of whom we have lost are moving elsewhere and are really sad to be doing so. And we graduated 30, we have 50 new students entering our school. We graduated 39 students, so that should make us up 11, and we're not quite up 11, but we're not far. So we're at 87 for this next school year, and we are very cognizant of class size, especially in our primary grades. That's something that a year ago, due to budget, we needed to eliminate
Sections.
and do one section, and we worked. It was a top priority this year to get 2 sections back at as many grades as we possibly could. We're super excited to talk about our 2021 goals. Let's go back and forth about that. We'll show you the 4. We always have a Catholic identity goal, 2 academic goals, which you see demonstrated there in the middle, and then 1 that's just something special for your school. And so we will go through and discuss those. As Sarah mentioned earlier, we're working on our Cardinal Newman Catholic benchmarks and standards. I gotta be honest with you, this is a work in progress. We started working on it this year more on paper and more in getting the teachers acclimated to the terminology, the ideals, the philosophy of it. Starting off last fall when we retreated at St. Mary of the Woods, when Father Guy talked with the teachers on truth, beauty, and goodness, which is a big essay that's a pillar of this Catholic identity that we're infusing and that we're working on. So while we were doing all this academic alignment and articulation of goals and deciding how to best implement those in the classes, we tried to layer this on simultaneously. Some might have said, no, do it separately. Sarah and I talked a long time about how important it was that while we were looking at the academic standards, it was very important for our teachers to get on this and start working with this.
Yep.
The teachers are at different learning levels, different understanding, which is why this next school year, 2021, about 1 out of every 4 PLCs, which are professional learning communities, will be dedicated to the formation of this Catholic identity piece for the teachers. We will pull back from the academic work that we're doing the other times, and we will specifically work with the teachers on this work. Erica Heinekamp-Hofer, who's traditionally been a 2nd grade teacher, this year lent her skills to 5-6 as a part-time teacher, is gonna be the 5th and 6th grade theology teacher, similar to the way we've dedicated a specific theology teacher to grades 7 and 8. And we are thrilled about this because we know that she will do a very good job of carrying Father's vision for what the curriculum is supposed to look like across the grade levels.
Our second goal has to do with English language arts achievement. When you see these numbers in our goal, which are passing rates, I want you to keep in mind a couple of things. Number 1, this was a brand new state assessment. So as I mentioned previously, overall proficiency rates in the state and across the Archdiocese were very, very much down from what ISTEP was, about 30%. And so we have set some goals for ourselves with English language arts. I pulled some data because after a school commission meeting that we had, I don't know, Mary Pat, was probably back in January, we had a couple of parents who were curious about, what's the breakdown in our students who have been enrolled at the school for more than 5 years versus students, because we do take a number of new students each year. I mean, that's
We do.
part of our mission. And I calculated that data in our 7th grade and 8th grade classes for this past school year. And it turns out that our passing rate in English language arts is 90%, which is higher than the state for sure, and higher than one of the highest in the Archdiocese. So I felt like that's really important information to share, because the foundational years at Joan of Arc are so important. And our reading program especially is phenomenal, Orton Gillingham. And so, we build on skills every year. And with our teachers collaborating and the curriculum we have in place, we're really confident that students who just continue to be enrolled at the school are going to be extremely successful.
We hear from parents whose children are in the respective high schools across the area. By the way, our choice for high schools is second to none. It really doesn't matter where they land in about 7 different schools that they do attend, and they excel. And no matter where they are, even top of the class, they're into the honors courses, they're taking the IB courses, they're excelling at a high rate, and oftentimes they attribute it to their foundation at Joan of Arc. Yeah, so I've talked about this, pretty much since arriving. I identified it when I just looked Joan of Arc up on Compass when I was just applying for the job. I knew math was an area we were going to have to increase. That's why we implemented a whole school program. I brought on Carrie Carr last year to help us implement this in the classrooms, and the teachers were so complimentary of their time with Carrie. She's truly gifted in helping bring the content and meet the children's needs, not just the children who need the help, but children who can excel or go above and beyond. Such amazing dialogue with Molly Howell, Marilyn McCauley, Karen Roberson, just different teachers I'm just thinking who would stop by and say, okay, this program is really coming to life for this reason. We have a lot of work to do on Go Math, because it's almost like the whole grocery store when all you needed was the whole spice section and you just needed to make like 3 spices.
Yep.
And so it's nice that we have so much to use and draw from, but we are really going to have to make it more lean and decide what is the priority, what are the essential skills. Essential is such a big word.
And we have some school-wide systems that you'll learn about when we talk about plans for next year, and academic interventions and supports that we're putting in place school-wide that will also assist with this achievement.
And we were planning those things before COVID even hit. Like we were talking about in the next year, what's our responsibility to our students to just quit the whole pass to the next grade level and yet add a whole new layer of skills maybe they have not mastered, or standards that they haven't mastered, to still leave for the next year. We really want to stop, not that that's practice, so to speak, but when the gap for a child gets bigger, and really they're enrolled in 6th, but they should be taking 4th grade math, then we have to do something immediately.
Our 4th goal, it has to do with social emotional learning. That's SEL for those of you that don't know, and behavior. This is probably our number 1 priority if and when we return to school. We are going to have students who essentially have to relearn how to go to school. We are going to have students who have experienced some trauma while at home these last few months. We've had students who have essentially, because their parents work or are continuing to go to work, have had to parent their younger siblings. We know that this is going to be a huge focus for us. We have a social emotional learning coordinator. Casey Knabb is going to fill that position, where she will, all kinds of things, and we can get into the details of this later, but she will be pushing into classrooms, working with small groups, teaching the kids about different brain brace practices, social emotional learning competencies. She will blend those with our Catholic virtues and our 7 habits of highly effective people.
In a way like no other staff member ever could, because of her longevity there and her many experiences at the school. I want to talk to that for a minute, because in the last couple of years, Casey's been a few places. I've referred to her as our utility player, because she is that. And however, I want to say, and I would let her say it if she were here, she's very a good kindergarten classroom teacher, I really don't like pulling her for the kindergarten, but when her skill set can benefit everyone in the school. She has a relationship with the parents and the families. She has the trust of the children. She's willing to do the work that we're asking her to do at a coordinator level of this program. And over the next year or so, she'll be working closely with Butler and their certification program for this very work. But I want to say that this is, when you look at a person's strengths and their God-gifted talents and strengths, hers align with this work in Joan of Arc. And it's much like all the years that she's been doing these different roles coming together in one way to equip her in this way. And we are so excited to see where this may take us. Yeah.
And as you can see in the goal, we know that, from research, we know these practices work. And we know that we will continue to see a decline in our behavior issues, which just makes more room for learning, right?
Right.
Okay.
I was talking with Father last week about the social emotional learning. Really, basically, the world of mental health and mental and emotional health is just, they're talking to the rest of the world about, we as Catholics, we are always talking about the personal formation, the opportunity to be the face of Jesus to one another. We talk this all the time. It doesn't necessarily mean we have the skills to deal with children who were trauma informed. And so it's kind of like the blending of what we can learn from mental health professionals and their research on, most recently on the brain specifically, and the way we have the opportunity to reprogram trauma and turn someone's actual outcome around. And all of our children experience upset in certain ways, and that benefits us all.
Okay, so this is probably what everybody has been waiting to hear. So we will go ahead and start talking about plans that we know for sure for 2020, 2021, and things that are, we think, but could be subject to change.
Yeah, so about 2 weeks ago, we were still significantly over budget. To a point that wasn't comfortable, because you don't want to start the year over budget. Actually, I've been required to be on budget, and it's been a requirement since I've been principal to examine closely where the money is spent, and I feel very responsible for that, because I don't want to someday leave a mess, to the next school staff. So we had 2 sections at 3rd grade. Hopeful, because the last couple of years we've been able to keep 2 3rd grades for that first year of iLearn and iRead, which the state is talking about making 1 test, which I'm very thrilled about, because we don't need our 3rd graders doing that much testing. More to be determined. But we talked with Rachel and Skinner. Rachel Bennett. I always go by her maiden name, Rachel Bennett, and she is like, my class, the 2nd grade year is phenomenal. They are performing. They are smart. They are capable. They are able. And she knows the 3rd grade teacher that we've hired. They went to school together. She said, now that I know Megan Shea is that teacher, I can tell you without reservation that it's not going to be a problem for them, as long as they have help.
Yeah.
So that's why it says with instructional assistants.
And the data supports it. If you look at that this year's 2nd grade STAR reading and math, it is phenomenal. I haven't seen those kinds of scores in a lot of years. Yeah. So we're very confident. So
that's the 1 grade level that looks a little different. As you can see, 4th grade, kindergarten, and 1st grade are all back to 2 sections, and this year they were 1. So we had to prioritize where is most important to keep the 2 sections. We think with the social distancing requirements, kindergarten and 1st graders need to have very much space. They need to be separated. They cannot be at tables. They need to be at individual desks. All these kinds of things that we know we're going to have to implement also factored into our decision making. And because of licensing, 4th grade, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade are all 2 sections, because they're actually the larger grades. Something school commissions going to have to tackle when we have smaller numbers enrolled in certain grades, and they're the upcoming classes. Where will we go in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? So CARES Act, we've not heard what our money is going to look like from IPS, who will disperse it to us. We do know that they're going to use our Title I formula, we did hear to maybe expect 3 times what we typically get. I will trust nothing until we're given a number. But we've started our wish list. Our wish list includes, we want, parents, I want to caution you, we don't want one-to-one technology because we want kindergartners and first graders on it all the time. We want it in case families have a need to have a device from school at home because maybe they're sharing each other's devices, or maybe their parents have jobs to do and they can't afford to let their children use it. It's not because we have a shift in philosophy about what needs to happen in the kindergarten and first grade classes. So sure, we'll take the opportunity and technology to let them all use their devices, and sure, teachers will use it instructionally, but we will balance that carefully with the traditional time as well. School nurse, no brainer. We need one anyway, even without COVID-19. And then social distancing measures, we don't even know what that's going to look like. Will we need screens? Will we need sanitizer in every classroom?
Portable hand washing
Portable
stations.
hand washing stations. The list goes on and on.
Yeah.
And then the academic supports, which is one of the things we're going to talk about.
Okay, these are just a few of the systems that we're putting in place to address learning gaps. And as Janet mentioned, these were plans that we had started talking about mid-year because we do have some significant gaps in our student population. And so I won't go into the details of it because obviously you can read, but every student received a Summer Bridge book. So if you're a parent on here, try to really encourage your kids to spend even like 15 minutes a day. It doesn't have to be much, but it just keeps the skills fresh. We were able to purchase those with our CARES money, and that's what a plan is. Power 30 is a school-wide scheduled time, so K-8, where students who are not achieving mastery on the power standards that are taught each week will then the next week take about 30 minutes and be retaught and remediated on that skill. That's not something that in my 13 years at Joan of Arc we've ever done, and I believe that it will address a lot of the gaps that we are seeing over, from year to year. If CARES money,
I was telling Sarah that in my time many years ago in Warren Township, in my last 2 years there, we were on 3-week cycles with our students, and the bottom students that we retested got the most specific and intentional help with the best educators, by that the certified teachers, and then different people met the needs of the on skill or above students for this kind of time. So this is something other schools have done forever.
If we have CARES money to support it, we're going to have a math team that will push into the math classes. We'll stagger when our teachers teach math in certain grade levels, and that team will work with fixed groups. We haven't been able to, aside from differentiating, we haven't been able to really provide a lot of enrichment for our highest achieving students. So this will assist with that, but it will also provide additional practice and remediation for students who are falling below. And then an adjusted curriculum plan, somehow we have to make up for the standards that we missed. And so that is a lot of the work that our teachers have been doing with Dr. J, even in this last week. They've been on Zoom several different times, spending a lot of time working on their maps. And on this next slide,
don't be overwhelmed.
No. I had to do this for Butler. But this is just kind of a proposed timeline and curriculum plan according to how we feel we're going to address and teach standard that were, below grade level or the grade level below, and then standards that were covered or missed between months of March and May.
So actually what the teachers are doing this week is, for example, the first grade teacher is meeting with both the kindergarten teacher who says, here's what I accomplished while we were gone, and here's what I didn't. And they're specifically taking what they didn't and adding it to the menu, so to speak, of what they're going to start with next year. So they'll do some sort of review of the standards covered. They'll start teaching the standards that weren't, and then they will decide when and how to merge them with the standards of the grade level. We're not pushing the teachers to push the children. We are going to say, we're going to go slow to go fast. If we don't take the time to receive the students back, understand where they all are, familiarize ourselves with how they fit into this, we're calling it a continuum. And for different grades, it might look different. Some grades may need a little more time for review. Other grades may find out, hey, you know what? The kids did better than we anticipated, we're going to start
Gonna
jumping
move
into
on.
things.
Yeah.
But that's why it's important that the teachers understand their standards and the standards of the grade level before and after them. So that same first grade teacher who met with the kindergarten also then sat in a meeting right away with the second grade teacher so that we can take that same information and take it all the way up.
And anybody who wants more detailed explanation of this, please feel free to just reach out. I don't want to, we don't want to bother everybody with all of the nitty gritty, but that's a little bit of an overview. Okay, so here are, I believe, the 10 or so questions that were submitted. Some I think we've already kind of covered, but here we go.
So I wanted to share, I drafted this. This is just very important that we recognize our children are at the center of our decision making. We're worried about everybody's safety, mostly the children sitting in our seats. And all of our plans are fluid and subject to modifications. We never know when the governor or the mayor is going to expand or pull back the number of people who are allowed to congregate or be in attendance of things. And so there might be things, I think the most important thing will be that as soon as we make decisions that are informed by the Department of Education and the CDC and the Archdiocese and the North Deanery and Father Guys and our parish team and us, before we make any decisions, it's gone through many of those conversations or layers, then we will communicate and be as transparent as we possibly can. We never hope to offend anybody by saying something like only students in the building, just so we can control the number of people, or this has changed for this reason, or this is going to look this reason. We just hope that we will communicate to you as quickly as we can, so that you have the information and can prepare that for your children. So we came up with
Question one, and probably mostly everybody's.
Yeah.
What is the plan?
We want to just come back.
Yeah.
We just want to open. We want to follow our schedule that we've released. We want to, so we listed it first, face-to-face with the original start date. We know that's going to look different because we're going to have all kinds of things we have to do, but that would be the best news that we could deliver to you. Something else.
And as of now, that's what we're planning on.
As of now,
As of
we're
now,
planning.
today, on March 27th, that is what we plan.
And I'll tell you, the state
May 27th.
state superintendent does not talk about much else. All we've talked about is getting through the year, get through the year, get through the year, get through the year. And I assume maybe next week when we begin, we might start to hear a little bit about the fall, but public schools have summer school to consider and food programs, which incidentally, our food program has stopped for the summer. And the reason that Claire Jackson did do that is because the library is offering food. So she knows our families who were counting on, not even just our families, but the families in the community who were coming through Monday, Wednesday, Friday for meals can get it at the public library at 42nd College. The second one is face-to-face with the delayed start. I'm hearing post
Labor Day.
Labor Day, which the East Coast does anyway. So what we did was I just created an alternate schedule. We would take fall break away, because why would we take fall break when we don't come back till September anyway? And then we threw some days into June.
Yeah. But those of you who are, and I mean, I am one of these families who was planning on fall break, because as many of you know, we usually take a week now. I would probably not plan on a fall break at this time, unless, you feel it's best for your family to still take them out of school to travel. But if we have to delay our start, we will eliminate fall break. A remote learning plan, we would have a renewed one. We will use your feedback to help guide what that plan looks like.
I do want to caution you about your feedback.
Yeah.
Your feedback contradicts one another based on your individual family's needs. And so some families are like 5 days live, and some families are like 3 days was perfect. And some families were like, we couldn't even make it during the day. We had to wait till the evening or the weekend to get to it. And some families we didn't even hear from. So I hope that you will understand, when we make a plan, we have to consider equity. We have to understand what are our families experiencing and what best meets as many needs as we possibly can.
And then the last option would be a hybrid. And those of you for those of you who don't know what that is, basically it would be like students would attend school part-time. So we would have, mornings and afternoons, or we would have every other day to reduce numbers and bodies. But Jan and I talked a lot about this, and we just really don't feel that it's what's best for families. And so unless we are told that's what we have to do, that will be our last resort.
These are the CDC guidelines for reopening schools. And there was a parent in our office yesterday asking about masks. And I said, well, the CDC's guideline is everybody over the age of 2. I don't know. We don't know what it's going to look like. We don't know. It all remains to be seen. We just wanted to share with you what the current suggestions are for schools to implement. We do know a couple things. For example, most specials will come to the classroom. We aren't going to have every child traipse to the music room and share instruments or space. We're going to have music probably come to that classroom because those kids are already in that space and they know their classroom teacher has gone over and over and over the guidelines for operating in that space. Probably we might eat in our classrooms unless we can figure out a way to assign a specific spot to every child with social distancing. So there's some things some schools are going to have to do, we won't, because we are small and we are able to attend to individual needs. Yes.
This you've probably already seen. Janet sent it out in an email, but these are just to reshare very quickly the feedback we got from remote learning. We sent out a survey right when we started, for those of you who remember, and got some great feedback, but a lot of the feedback changed and a lot of suggestions were made just based on the fact that we had to do it for 10 weeks.
For so long.
And so
Yeah.
this is just kind of an overview of the common positives and the 3 most common suggestions, which if we do have to go back to that, we will for sure keep in mind.
So question 2, we get a lot of questions. Believe me, we ask ourselves too. I mean, one of the hardest things a teacher has to do, I've noticed at Joan of Arc, is come talk to us about I'm not coming back next year. Most teachers have tears in their eyes or are choked up because it's a very hard place to leave. There's something about it that makes you want to stay. We hear from them, most often it's because of what they're not making and they can't make ends meet. We've got teachers working 2 jobs, lots of teachers work 2 jobs just to keep this job.
We felt really strongly about sharing the comparison in the pay scales because I just don't know if parents really know what public school educators are paid versus what, and we certainly believe that this is a calling. And it's a vocation. And, a lot of teachers come to us because they want to be able to openly share faith and pray and practice their faith. And so that's certainly a reason. But, when we get this question, why do our teachers leave? Another thing too is because of our lower scale, we tend to hire newer teachers, and because as you can see, there's not as much of a discrepancy for first-year teachers. But with that being said, most of them are young women, and then life happens, transitions, marriages, moves, babies, and we lose a lot of our teachers for those reasons, unfortunately.
Second part of that is about why do they change grade levels? And I mean, I would have to have specific examples of where that question came from. My answer is because of request, they asked to move, or because we recognize these people work together in a certain way and that would benefit the students. And so we want them at the same grade level, or these 2 don't collaborate enough and I need to move them because they would work better with someone else. In some cases, for example, last year a teacher was going to leave and I knew another teacher wanted to stay if she could stay part-time at 5-6. So I asked Miss Heitkamp if you could do part-time, could we keep you that way? And she said yes, fortunately, because now a year later we get to use her in theology. So sometimes it's a negotiation, sometimes it's about, I want my teachers. I remember in my first 11 years in Warren Township, I taught in 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and I moved at least 5 times. And I looped 1 year, and I will tell you, it gave me better understanding of content and standards and what children were supposed to know before they got to me and what I needed to prepare them for when they left me. And so personally, I subscribe to, there's a very rare teacher who should stay in a grade level for, I'm not going to give you a number of years because it's different for every person, but too many years because they're not challenged. They're not taught the grand scope of the curriculum and they fall into patterns or into practices that have not been renewed because they've just been doing the same thing the same way.
And how will we retain our teachers? The best answer we can give is that we try really hard to create a school culture that is very happy and, prioritizes community and a family feel. And, if you've been in our building, I think that you probably witnessed that yourselves. Anytime we have a guest that's the first thing they comment on. Wow, like your staff, you guys are all so close. And so, you know, we try really hard to prioritize that and relationships because we find it's really one of the best ways that we can keep people.
We also use the fact that we do have a lot of title money as a draw because they can do a lot of professional development and professionalizing of themselves as an educator. We had our children come because we value Catholic education. It's our parish school. We've noticed a dramatic change in the dynamics of the school, and many of the parishioners have left the school. Are the reasons being communicated? School commission could tell you the reasons are as many, oftentimes, as the people who do leave. Sometimes they don't want to pay the tuition. Sometimes they want the school to be something that it either isn't or can't be based on what their views are of the school. I think that's something we could track a little bit better. Right? We try to find out from people when they decide to leave, why they're leaving. Certainly, we certainly care that we lose anybody. That's our mission, is just not to serve best parishioner children. It's our belief we would love every parishioner family who has grade school age children or preschool age or early learning age. We'd love them all to be at our school. But they aren't, and we do have another population of children that are part of our mission that we love too. So I don't know what the reasons are specifically. They're just married.
That one's the same.
And the same thing. Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead. The future of fundraising, we're constantly discussing, especially with PTO starting this year. Sat down, had lots of conversations, great idea thinkers. It's a good think tank of people involved in what if we did this, or what if we changed this. It's not just limited to the school. We have the parish to consider. So Molly Ellsworth and Melinda and Father have to be part of all that decision making about what happens, because we can't tap those same resources all the time, you know, for the same things. And so we are in discussions about what those things look like, but especially with the hiring of a new music person or persons, and what we've done in the past, we're in discussions about it.
The number 6, we're a little unsure, I think, about the specifics of this question. So if this is something that you submitted and you want to reach out to us personally by emailing us, you know, just in terms of what kind of change in communication, just there's a lack of communication with athletics and level of athletics, meaning like that we're not winning, or I just am a little bit confused about the question and the nature of the question. So if you could elaborate on that, or when we, you know, jump off of these questions, if you want to, if you're on here and you want to unmute yourself, engaging more diverse families in the school. I'm assuming that comes with maybe volunteering, and because I think we already have a lot of diverse families enrolled in the school. But in terms of, you know, engaging them to contribute and to volunteer, you know, the PTO has done a phenomenal job of hosting like family nights that are free, where, you know, families can just come and be together. And I think I shared this last year, but the Sweethearts dance that they hosted, or maybe it was the Thriller night, one of the two, maybe both. I did kind of track the families that attended, and in like years, it was the most diverse that we had. So I think we're like moving in the right direction by offering some of those events and opportunities, but it's just going to take a little bit more time to grow that.
I'd like to say something about the sports, if I could.
Oh, sure.
A lot of people think that the sports are run by the school. They're not. It's Catholic Youth Organization. It's really not a function of the school. It's really more of a function of parish council. So CYO sports is more of a parish event and not a school. So really, two of you can't be blamed for sports or really praised for sports. It's just a CYO, Catholic Youth Organization. So it's not a function of the school directly.
So they should reach out. So who should they reach out to, Father, would you suggest?
No, parish council is in charge of CYO.
So I'm just wondering if there's anyone. Okay, all right.
I mean, we do support the work of athletics, like the walkathon, for example, is at Joan of Arc is specifically done. In other schools, the walkathon is done for the school's bottom line, you know, and the fundraising go to the operating budget. But here, the walkathon is done on a school day for CYO. which at first I had to ask about, like, wait a minute, the CYO has got other people and we're taking a school day. And I was just told early on, this is how we do it. And I said, okay, well, we're happy to support our CYO efforts. And so that's the one thing that the school does to help the efforts of the CYO, because our children play in the CYO. So
we are preparing for another shelter-in-place order. We're hoping that that doesn't happen, but as we mentioned, if remote learning becomes our best option, those plans are still in the works. So if you're asking how will they differ?
some ways they will differ will be every child will have access to a Chromebook.
Mhm.
We will intentionally find out who has issues with connectivity and try to make a plan for that, because we were trying to do it remotely, and that's
Mhm.
hard because they were the people having the problems with the connectivity. So once we get them back in the school community, we may be able to find them and connect them to services that exist. We also are going to have our teachers look at and become more proficient at certain platforms,
Mhm.
and then not require them because they will want to do this, so it's not really a requirement, but work with them to establish what's a reasonable amount of them for live instruction, realizing some kids aren't going to be attending that time. So what are we doing? Are we taping, and how are we inviting children who weren't able to attend? So
And that kind of goes, I think, with question 8 as well. Certainly there's an equity concern there, because not all of our kids are able, if we run a schedule, to necessarily attend class at that time. They might have to watch their kids, siblings, or, they may not. We had a lot of students do their remote learning at night. We had teachers emailing with students and contacting kids at night. And so what we would try to do to accommodate these requests, I think, are to do more of a video recording of lessons and then to post them during the school day, but that way students who don't have the same kind of access or the same kind of opportunities can watch those lessons in the evenings or whenever they can.
yeah, I heard Miss Newport sent I don't even know how many hours in personal Zoom calls with certain kids just to help them understand the teacher's assignments and the Google Classroom and things like that. And so there's some really cool stories that we don't even know, that was going on behind the scenes during this time.
And the other thing we want to really be careful about, I know as a parent, I personally want to be cautious about screen time. I don't want my own kids staring at a screen for, 7 hours straight. And so that's something that we are trying to factor in as well, just to get a good balance.
Yes. Resource next year will stay the same, and we will add instructional couple aids, in the larger classes, the primary classes. The first year when we had to cut resource, it was unfortunate, but $275,000 doesn't just fall off our budget when we're using every penny reasonably. So that first year when we cut resource, we tried to bring some of those staff members in through other means. And next year we will be able to have the same staff in place. We will not have 2 people working in title. We will have 1. Catherine Newport will stay, but we're hoping to be able to use Kayla on the math team. So sometimes at Vark, we might be able to bring the person back in the exact same way, but I'm going to use Molly Ellsworth's word, pivot. She's been using that word a lot lately. We pivot and figure out another way.
Yep.
And we are getting new windows, thanks to Father Guy. Thank you. He reached out to, or did it? Do you want to talk about it, Father? The windows?
Yeah, well, we've reached out to some alums that had not given to the Centennial campaign. I was just reading the number 10 there. For many years, the church went begging. The school has had 2 or 3 renovations since the church had anything done. And the money that was raised for the Centennial could only be used for that purpose. The windows in the school were actually put in, they're not that old actually. They were put in before I came, but they were a friend of somebody who was able to get a really good deal, and you know how that works out. And they were probably not approved by the diocese. They went in, they're more residential grade, and so now we need to replace them. So yeah, we can't take money from the Centennial Fund for the church and put it into the school, because it's not for that purpose. It's illegal to do that. So we went outside other sources. I think if Molly is online, maybe she can answer this. But I think they're going to start, maybe the 2 of you know, they're going to start the installation of the windows pretty soon.
Yes.
July.
So the south side, which is the 42nd Street side, and the east side, which oversees the garden, we'll get the windows first, and they are going to do the work before we were supposed to come back to school.
We are very happy.
We're
And of
so
course, we still have the upper story windows in the church that have to be done too. So we're trying to, we've given the school a lot of attention over the years, and the church has gone kind of begging. So we do our best to work with what we got, but yeah, the windows will be coming. So
Thanks, Father. Okay, I think there's just maybe, one more.
Yeah, amen. So we've been fortunate that we had the PPP money come in and at St. Joan of Arc. Father, you can speak to this too, but Father, let me know that we at Joan of Arc, we're doing a pretty good job keeping up with our collections, unlike other places that were really impacted more significantly than we are. And then the PPP money came in, and I think has really helped meet payroll. We did not lay anybody off at any of the sites, parish side, early learning center, or preschool or school. But it is, it's burdensome because it's money that we don't know. Will we have to pay it back? Will we not have to pay it back? And when will we have to pay it back? We obviously don't want to believe any rumors that it might be forgiven. Why would we want to believe that? Because that would be just too good to be true. So we assume we will pay it back. Can you add anything to that, Father?
all I can say is God bless St. Joan of Arc, because we have many parishes throughout the pandemic have been down 40-50% in their weekly collections. Joan of Arc has been down just a few percentage points. So our weekly giving has continued. As far as I know, we're doing our best with capital improvements. It's just like anything else. The more students we have, the better off we are financially. So if we have more children in the school, then we're able to keep making better improvements. But it's when the attendance drops, it's very hard to make ends meet. So we're doing our best with what we have, and Joan of Arc always goes above and beyond. Somehow we're able to stretch a dollar like nobody else in the North Deanery is able to do. So, but thanks to Joan of Arc, all of you that have been continuing to support the parish, because a good portion of what the school has to spend comes from the parish assistance as well. So,
Right.
so I don't know. I see Molly's little icon on here. Does Molly want to say anything? Our business manager
Might be hiding.
hiding behind the fleur-de-lis there. So
I am hiding.
anything to add, Molly?
I don't really know. I think you hit the nail on the head. We've been very lucky in that many parishes have seen a 40, 50, 60% drop in Sunday collections. The last I checked, we were like $3,000 above our budget for Sunday collections. That being said, that's obviously not our total income. During the pandemic, our preschool and early learning center, obviously we're not asking parents to pay for child care that they're not receiving, but we are still paying all of those employees. So we've seen a 90% drop in revenue in the preschool and early learning center, but that will be covered by the Paycheck Protection Program. In terms of, I saw the question about the windows. Yes, I'm still waiting for authorization from the CFO from the Archdiocese to go ahead. There's a 4-week lead for manufacturing, and then those windows will start going in. They should be in no later than the first week of August. But yeah, we do make a dollar stretch at Joan of Arc, that is for sure. And Providence has a way of taking care of us. So I'm grateful to all of the parents too, because I know you really put a lot of effort into keeping the school as amazing as it is.
Thanks, Molly. We have some questions in the chat. I'm going to stop sharing our screen.
Father, the first request is, can you talk about First Communion a little bit?
We had set the date for First Communion to correspond with Corpus Christi, which is significant, the body and blood of our Lord Jesus. And we were planning to have the children come back the next day for the Corpus Christi procession. We always like to have the first communicants process, but we've decided to do away with the procession this year. We'll be doing a holy hour at 3 o'clock on Sunday, but we are still planning to have First Communion on the 13th. A lot of the diocese was planning to have all of our churches open for this coming Sunday. We just got word, of course, that excluded Marion County. So a lot of the churches around the diocese will be open this weekend for Mass. Joan of Arc, with this late announcement coming in from the mayor, we felt we couldn't open safely for this coming weekend. When I say safe, I don't mean the building is contaminated. The building has been sitting there, it's been cleaned. In fact, we've had a couple masses last week and then again today. After every time someone's in the building, even if it was for private prayer, our cleaning crew comes in and sanitizes everything, wipes everything down, any of the pews that have been touched. The mayor said we could open churches at 50% capacity. We're going to stick with our 30% for safety reasons, which puts us at about 270. We will be live streaming First Communion because a lot of people who would want to come, there's not going to be space for them because we've got a lot of the pews roped off. And again, we will sanitize the building, doorknobs, door handles, restroom, everything, pews before the children come in for First Communion. But they will be limited as to the number of guests they can have. Depending on, we have just over 30, just low numbers, 32, I think, 32 or 33 children in First Communion. So they'll each get a particular number of tickets for their family to come in. But there will be no communion in the hand or in the on the tongue. It'll be communion in the hand, and we're going to do some instruction for that. There'll be no common cup, no receiving from the cup into the foreseeable future. So we're doing everything we can to keep the numbers lower than actually what Marion County is allowed to have, and using those good safety measures. We'll have hand sanitizers at all the entrances, and so I don't know if there are other specific questions. We just don't want to kick this down the road any further. The children need to make their First Communion. So we're doing everything we can to abide by CDC guidelines. I know Molly also spent some time reading over the latest CDC guidelines that came out when President Trump said that we have to get our churches back open. So I don't know if anybody else has anything to add. We're going to be just as healthy and safe as we can be, and get our children their First Communion. We are planning this weekend, actually, there is going to be a Mass with people present. It'll be at 7 p.m., Vigil of Pentecost. And that will be for the RCIA folks who normally would have received baptism and confirmation, First Communion at the Easter Vigil. We're not able to do so. They've had to wait all this time. So Pentecost wraps up the Easter season. So we're going to go ahead with the 7 p.m. Mass on Pentecost just for the RCIA people and their families, get them received into the church and get their sacraments. So we're moving forward. But was there anything else on that question that I didn't answer?
I think it was more just a concern, like, are we confident we can do it safely? And I think
we wouldn't do it if we couldn't do it safely.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So obviously there are several more questions that we're happy to answer. Obviously we've gone a little longer than we expected. So if you need to get off, we won't be offended. Because I know we're going on an hour and 15 minutes here, but we are happy to answer the questions in the chat. So I'll just go ahead and continue with Derek, if you're still on here. I don't know the math passing rates off the top of my head, but I can get you that information. I'm happy to. I can kind of run those numbers to you and just email them to you directly, if that's okay. Okay.
We're so ironic at Joan of Arc because while as a school our math rates look low, we have 3 upcoming 8th graders who are going to take geometry this year, and And that's, some of our schools don't even offer algebra in the North Deanery. Some of the Catholic grade schools have said, no, we're not doing that. It's not part of the 8th grade curriculum, and we're not doing that. And at Joan of Arc, it's interesting to me because just like everything here, we run the spectrum. You know, we've got advantaged and disadvantaged, and we're very eclectic and very much just a combination of all kinds of people, and our performance is very similar to that. So if someone just looks at those scores alone and thinks that tells a story, the complete story, then they're not right. Does this new goal mean that if a student is
Oh yeah.
excelling in their class and board, will be pursuing a good plan of enrichment? Oh, okay. So about social emotional learning, the goal would be, the push-in would be where they would get their enrichment. Also, we're forever going to be working with teachers this year on their teaching technique and questioning, Socratic method, those kinds of things. We really want our teachers to learn how to teach the rigor of the standards. So we're hoping that helps with enrichment and differentiation as we do. You know, the older the kids get, I always think it's easier in the primary grades to do that, but actually I think it just depends on the educator. So we'll continue talking to the staff and working on professional development around that.
Yep. But Charles is, yes, the curriculum guides, like the grade level guides, are basically being sent to printing partners in the next couple of weeks. And what we're going to do is ask for them. They're very user friendly. As a parent, especially, I think, because, you know, unless you're an educator, you're not going to understand like necessarily all of the, you know, terminology and jargon, but they're very user-friendly parent guides that sort of just summarize everything being done at every grade level. And so we're going to ask printing partners not only to print us like fancy brochures, but we're also going to, because we'll have like prospective families and packets and things like that we pass out and open house supplies. But we're also going to have them create them in PDF. So we will post all of those on the website eventually. And your second question about teachers ensuring that they follow the maps. And
I'll address that. For example, Kyle and Erica are going to actually not only do their job and teach the 5th and 6th and 7th and 8th grade, they're going to support the work of the other teachers in the building. So whether the teachers teach the religion or the theology or not, they will look and watch teachers teach so they can see how natural it is for each of them to incorporate the standards and the Catholicism and the Catholic identity piece we're talking about. Because Erica does not know how to go 4 sentences without doing it. If Erica is looking at an Indiana academic standard about compare contrast, she chooses to do the lives of 2 saints just because it occurs to her to do so. It's a no-brainer way to do it. And it helps that she has that background. She's also a teacher that other teachers respect and listen to and would like the advice and suggestion from. Kyle is the same way. He's just newer to the staff since we've hired so many teachers.
And if you're talking about teacher evaluation and observation and the academic maps, that will be me mostly and Janet.
We'll divide it up.
But primarily because a lot of the, you know, significant behaviors and discipline issues will be handled with a positive, proactive approach by Casey that will enable Janet and I to be in the classrooms a lot more than we were even this year.
Yes.
And then, yes, we will definitely post the presentation. I did remember to record it, thank God. So I will make sure that we put it on the website.
And you're welcome. We are not prepared to talk about anything with the ELC at this time. But as soon as we, just like with the school, as soon as we know more, we will get it out to you. We know you're anxious about that as well.
Yep.
Teachers not coming back this year are Molly Howell. She really labored over it. I mean, she knew she had an opportunity and she got the job offer and she still labored over it. And was really a hard decision for her to make because she, quite frankly, does not want to leave. Maddie Heineman is moving to Tennessee. Deborah Hatfield is retiring. Susan Singaris is retiring. Carrie Carr is not returning in her role. essentially because we don't have the money for that role. And there are classroom positions that don't fit into her personal schedule. And that totally makes sense to us because taking a classroom job is a little different. You have to be here when the students arrive. You have to be there till they leave. You have really very little flex time during the course of a day. It's a personal choice a parent has to make for his or her family. Deborah, Susan, Carrie, Molly,
Jessica Hollowell has decided to stay home with her new baby.
with Elizabeth. Yep. Actually, she was returning before COVID. Then COVID gave her the opportunity to extend her maternity leave in a non-traditional way because she was teaching, and she just decided, this has shown me I really want to be a stay-at-home mom with my daughter. So we're sad to miss them all, and definitely benefited by the contributions that they all made over the course of years or even in a single year.
Yeah, and we plan to invite them back when we can safely all, kind of gather for school masses in the church again, to recognize them for all of their service to St. Joan of Arc. That's typically what we do with our departing staff. It's just been kind of hard, especially for our retirees. We don't feel like we have appropriately recognize them or given the school community an opportunity to say goodbye. So we will do that this fall.
For sure.
Okay, so I think we got through all of the questions on the chat, unless there is anything else that anyone else wants to type in, or if you want to come off of mute, you're welcome to do that quickly, or not quickly, but you can do that as well. This is where it's awkward. And we wait. I think it's safe to say that we will be in a lot of constant communication with our families this summer.
Yeah.
It'll be a different summer than usual. So if you would please, routinely try to check your email. That's how we communicate on a widespread level.
Mm-hmm. We're working the majority of the summer, so, and we both have our emails on.
A list of students by name, like say over the last 3 or 4 years, we can compare like who's left year after year. Because have we done any exit interviews with any?
I guess supposedly they've tried to call people, but then they don't really respond.
Yeah. This year in particular, the families that are leaving, we have talked with and have reasons for all but maybe one.
Yeah, we one family leaving had a 3rd grader, and we were in close communication in January and February when the first transition and then the second transition existed. I sat on the phone, I listened. She said, I know this is out of your hands. I mean, this is like admin 101. What happens when in the course of a school year a teacher resigns? That brings me to think about the teacher contract, by the way. We can tell them that they have to pay 10% of their contract back to the school because they've broken contract. It's been eliminated this year because what they've instituted in the contract that the teachers are signing, which just goes to show you the character of our teachers, is that we, if our enrollment declines, can only have to give 30 days notice to break our contract with them. And this is one of the reasons we had to wait so late to give our contracts, because the Archdiocese was working on that. And I know those things exist across businesses, and lots of you work in fields where similar practices are probably at place as companies scramble to figure out how to survive this. But we also had a pay freeze. We were not supposed to elevate to the 1920 pay scale. So across the whole Archdiocese, in solidarity, the Archbishop Thompson used the word in solidarity with, others during this time. So
Joel, as Chatard is our North Deanery school, we work the most closely with them as our high school, and we try to align everything we do. However, we did not realize that tonight was their town hall.
Had no idea
when we scheduled this a couple weeks ago. So we apologize for those of you who have kids at Chatard. Hopefully you divided and conquered. But yes, in terms of breaks and COVID plans, Janet and I, well, really Janet is on a weekly call with Joe Hansen and all of the North Deanery principals.
And we text pretty much every day.
And thank you guys for all of your kind
Again.
words. You're so kind in the chat. Okay. Anything else?
We really miss you. We miss you all and your kids like crazy.
We do.
How about a final blessing?
Thank you.
I
Bob.
want to thank Janet and Sarah. You've done an incredible job, not only through the COVID pandemic, but just all year. You've got a good energy, working well, and I'm excited about the future of our school. So thank you for your great work.
Thank you,
And
Father.
to all of our parents, thank you so much. You're keeping us going, and it's a very important mission we have. May the blessing of Almighty God, the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit descend upon each of you and remain with you always. Amen.
Amen.
Have a good evening, everybody. We'll stay on if, there's any last minute questions or as you sign off. Enjoy the weather.
Can you say about that somehow? I know, I saw that.
Some of the comments make me laugh.
Scroll up a little bit. Aw,
Aw. Why is this like not?
so
Aw.
funny.
Yeah, our teachers have been amazing.
Yeah.
That is for sure. Oh, okay. Who's that? I don't think people want to leave us. Hi, Sophia.
It's good to see you, Sophia.
We miss you.
All right, you guys have a nice night.
Thank
Okay,
you.
everybody. Good night. Thank you.
All right, good night. Thanks for all the information.
You're
I
welcome.
started my summer book.
You did? How many pages have you done?
We're so proud of you.
Like 10.
Wow.
Nick, bring Lila here. I want to show Sophia. Well, Sophia, I want to show you my new puppy. Hang on.
You got a new puppy. A new puppy.
have to
you're
see her.
just, you
Can I see
won't
her?
even believe how cute she is. Father, you should stay on for this. She's like a teddy bear.
She is laying in the grass. She thinks she's the
Oh.
princess of the yard.
Get her, Nick.
Yeah, so we've never had a puppy before.
It's like golden retriever, like Millie.
Did you already see it?
No,
Did you hold it?
just getting
This is Lila.
Gotta hold her up.
it. Oh my good. Oh my goodness.
Did she get a treat? Can you open this for me?
Yes.
She gets a treat on the outside and not inside.
Happy.
Jamie met her yesterday, right? Jamie?
Oh, somebody just.
Yeah.
Hi, Sophia. I'm gonna meet you
I mean,
next year.
Look at the face.
Look how cute.
That's just the cutest thing.
Oh, wow.
Aw.